everyone, and welcome back to the Anchor of the Week. My name is Courtney.
And my name is Lucas, and we're from an initiative of Hope and Anchor Community Church in London.
Yes, each week we'll be discussing different topics relevant to faith and Christianity in today's culture.
We're here to build a space for the church to share the experiences and to encourage one another to live like Jesus.
Yes. Since we're back, another week, another episode.
Another episode. And
Yes.
this episode is about humility.
Yes.
So, it's a hard one to swallow.
Some nervous laughter maybe in the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all struggle with it. It's a topic that would never get old, I will say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's one of those that is just like generally, for lack of a better word, maybe unglamorous to kind of talk about, you know?
Yeah.
Like it feels very like, oh, fine. Like humility.
It's
you know?
not cool, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Oh my
like,
gosh.
that's what...
That could be a whole other thing.
Yeah. But like, it's so, like we were saying, like it's so necessary though,
Yeah.
because it's like, even though it is difficult, because it is difficult, that's why we need to bring it out
Yeah.
all the time. It is something that we all lack. Oh,
There's room for growth for all of us. Let's just
all
say
of
that.
us.
Yeah.
But like how, it's so interesting how like difficult, especially it is at this moment. It feels like nowadays, the more we go and we grow as a generation, we keep moving. Every year is like everything is more concentrated to our pride. How more can we feed it? You know?
Yeah.
And-
And that's true because we can't really talk about humility without talking about pride.
Mm-mm.
Pride just seems a bit more aggressive, you know?
Yeah, it's like, oh, calm
I'm not gonna
down.
talk about my pride.
It's like,
Yeah, but the thing is, it's
don't
true,
poke
right?
me.
Don't poke me. Yeah. Sorry. A lot of poking happening.
Yeah,
Today. But it's that whole thing. Like, we can't really talk about humility without confronting pride in that sense.
yeah, and there are a lot of things where there are part of pride, but they're like sugar coated. They're put in a nice way. They make us believe that they're not it, but they are.
Yeah. Or a good pride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what we can talk about it is like, I was thinking like the other day I was just like scrolling through social media, and then you can see how many like times people like almost every day videos I was like scrolling through, you can check on the comments and there's so much hate towards people like all the time, no matter what. This like this judgment, nobody
I was gonna
has
say
anything to
judgment,
learn,
yeah.
every has it all figured out, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, like, what are you born with, like a dictionary in your head or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Everything. But
Yeah. That's really interesting though, because as you talked about, like, we sugarcoat pride in that sense, you know?
yeah,
And a lot of times I feel like it's just, well, that's just my opinion. You know,
Mhm.
I'm just stating my opinion. And again, as you said, with social media, I think it's so easy to be like, oh, well, I just said my opinion.
yeah,
You know, and I wouldn't always connect the dots of, oh, be like humble, you know, have humility when you're like leaving a comment for someone.
Yeah.
You know, like that doesn't really
but just
seem
because
to-
your name is Robert 0.728 something, that
Yeah, I know,
doesn't
right?
mean that.
Something super generic.
Yeah, that doesn't mean like that doesn't hurt anybody or whatever, you know. It's like, or
Yeah.
at the end of it, you're gonna be accountable for what you do,
Yeah. That's real.
even if your name is anonymous.
Yeah. That again is, I think it could be a whole subtopic, you
Yeah.
know, like taking accountability for. Maybe we can work on that one for a future episode, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
you guys can tell us what you think, and
Undercover on the internet.
we'll get on it.
Yes. But yeah, that's really interesting in the fact of, like, we have these opinions, and one thing I've always said is, like, obviously we think our opinion is right, or else we wouldn't have that opinion. You know, no
Yeah.
one, like, has an opinion and is like, oh, but that's wrong, you know? But it's, like, as I've been kind of, like, mulling over humility, realizing that humility and teachability are very, like, connected. You know, like, you can't really have one without the other. And so one thing that really has been standing out to me as I've kind of been like trying to process through humility, which of course I struggle with, like you, like literally everyone else, is like I can realize when I'm maybe struggling more with pride than humility, or then like walking in humility, when I realize like I can't be corrected or I can't be
Yeah.
Like, no, like what I believe is what I believe, you know, and maybe I don't say that like explicitly. Like you might not like I might not say something to you and be like, but that's it, you know.
Yeah.
But it's in my posture, you know. It's in the way that I communicate, you know, kind of more rigid in that sense.
It's how you stand. Yeah.
Exactly, and just how, as you said, like how sneaky that can be, you know. And that's one thing that, yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but like, at least in my life recently, how I've
Yeah,
really
for
been
me,
seeing it.
how I think, like every time I think of the word humility, I'm a visual person, so I see the word. You know, I don't hear it. It's like, but like when I see the word humility, like next to it, like for me, is like learning. You know, it's like, and for other people, I feel like the word literally translate to a puppy dog. You know, just looking at you like has like no strength or whatever. It's like every time people like I feel like every time they see humility, they see of somebody that is
Weak.
very weak.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually humility is very very powerful. It's
Yeah.
strong because you know that like you're in a position where it doesn't define who you are, what you're saying, if you're corrected or whatever you bring up to the table, because literally pride and the way we stand, is basically an action towards our fear, like from our fear. You know, we're
I mean,
we're fearing
yeah.
that somebody will like hurt us or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a
pride.
reaction from insecurity, essentially.
Yeah, insecurity.
Yeah.
But when you are humble, you know that this won't affect you. Like, okay, maybe what you're saying is correct, maybe it's not. But
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let it. You can have your opinion, like
Yeah.
other people say, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just being available to like or capable of receiving something from somebody else.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it as well. And yeah, as you said, like being strengthened in our identity in that sense. Because like other people's opinions or thoughts or how they view things really shouldn't affect us, you know, but they do so often, you know. But then I think that's a good like marker, as you said, to be like, oh, okay, maybe I'm actually getting too much of my validation from other people if I can't have them thinking I'm wrong, which is also a whole other thing.
Yeah.
As we as humans, I feel like there's so much shame around being wrong. I mean, I don't know if shame is necessarily the right word, but it's definitely one of the right words.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've all been in these situations where we realize that we're wrong, but then we won't say anything. We have to just act like we're right because we don't want to, I don't know, maybe admit that we're wrong, be vulnerable in that, you know, and that's not necessarily because we all have like a reputation to upkeep, which sometimes, yeah, okay, we might act out of that, but it's also like fear of being rejected by others, you know, like what if I'm wrong and people, you know, say this, do that, you know, like reject me. But it again is that whole thing of, well, I can be wrong. And even if people reject me because, you know, I was wrong, that doesn't change who you are.
No.
That doesn't change who you are in Christ, you know, and how he's made you and who he's made you to be.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, now I'm just thinking about what if we just had a whole generation of super humble people?
Yeah. The thing I was gonna say is like, it's so interesting how much it affects our lives and the way we move. The lack of knowing God, you know, it affects everything we do completely.
Yeah.
That moment that we spend, and sometimes it can be. I mean, I encourage you to spend more time with God than that, but sometimes like just one little prayer before you go to work or whatever, it's like, God, I don't have it together today. I don't know what's gonna go on, but let it be your will.
Yeah.
You know, I need you. You know,
Yeah.
those kind of prayers sometimes can like set everything. You know,
Yeah.
and it's not that it sets the rest of your day. It sets you. Like it's like you're using God as a compass.
It positions your heart. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
and you're like, you know, you need God. And
that's it
like,
right there.
and that's it. You know, and it's like you're not, yourself is not the one that directs you, but you know that God is the one that can guide you to the right place, that that's the one that you need, that he's the one that is perfect, that he's life.
Yeah.
And when you're in that position, like I don't know, like I was saying, I'm a visual person. I think of Jesus. I think of like how he moved. He was so humble. He knew he was God. He
Honestly.
came down to earth and he dealt with all of us,
Yeah.
with this very prideful people that didn't know where they were going, and he still moved with compassion, with love. And when I think of that, when I remember that I need God, that he was the one that moved in that way in the earth, it's like, why can't I don't do it myself either? Like too, because like if he did it himself, being God, he doesn't need to prove anybody that he's God and that he's right or whatever. He still walked in humbleness,
Yeah.
in humility, whatever.
Close enough.
Like, why shouldn't I too?
Yeah. I think.
And yeah,
like that right there is so key. Is humility is admitting our need in that sense, our need for God, our need for community, our need for help. And so as you're talking about this, I'm like, yeah, Jesus did that. Why is it so hard for me to do it? Like, and he's Jesus, like the God of the universe. But we're living in a culture right now that is so. And I know we've talked about this in previous episodes, but this is the way our culture is. It's so like you have to take care of yourself. You can't depend on anyone because people are going to let you down. Well, yeah, they are. Because hello, have you met a human before? We let people down sometimes.
Constantly,
Actually. Yeah, it's true. But it's this idea of, but God doesn't let us down, And as we are humble in front of God, like we're humble in our interactions with others, But as you said a bit earlier too, like the world views humility as like weakness, and like being trodden over, walked all over, stepped on, like used in that sense, and they glorify like doing it yourself, getting it done, trusting only yourself, be right. And to like divert a little bit. Okay. Do you remember like woke culture? I mean, like, hey, it's still kind of here, but it was like really big a few years ago. Like, hey, stay woke, kids. Like when you, like you've like woken up, awakened,
I think.
To maybe like social issues or things going on. Like get this knowledge so you're not ignorant. But then what it did, I think, and in essence, that's really great. But what it did, I think, was it kind of perpetuated this thing of like you have to be right and you have to have the right opinion. If this makes sense. I know I've kind of taken us on a tangent here, but it's this whole idea, and you can just see how our culture has kind of shaped us to being like, if you don't know, or if you are ignorant, or if you make a mistake, then you're not woke, then you're not up to date, then you're, all these kind of different things implied even, and especially through social media. So I think it's a lot of us as Christians allowing God to reshape the way that we look at humility, reshape the way that we look at how it is to move in humility, and then letting that being like the catalyst, for change throughout the rest of culture.
Yeah, like the time where we are in now is so like we have everything we want to know in the palm of our hands. Basically, we can search for anything we need at the moment, but I think it's just so also wrong to think that everything is in there and that is right, because there's so much fake news information. People want to get your attention. We have talked about this on the social media podcast thing that we did, that they want to get your attention. And of course, like we know about other news companies. I'm not going to say names because I don't want to get in trouble, but that they fake news all the time because they want to get people to be watching their show or whatever constantly.
Yeah.
And because of that they are creating news all the time. There is so many people that are oblivious, and I'm oblivious to many things, and I believe what they have said. For just because they are saying something, that doesn't mean that is right, correct. And we nowadays we know so many things. But that's because of like some of them are fake news, some are real, but there's no sweat.
Yeah,
but that's something else.
Because the truth is that the line between fact and opinion has been blurred.
Yeah,
And again, we could go into
But
moral relativism.
why I wanted to connect this with the no sweat is that's why we're lacking humility, because we have a lot of information, but we haven't learned, we haven't gone through the process to learn the actual thing. Our previous generation have worked a lot more, and they have learned what they did. That is now on our phones and whatever, with the sweat. But because of that, because we have learned it here in these papers, we feel like we can say whatever we want in social media.
Yeah.
There's no grace.
Interesting.
Do you see kind of what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we didn't sweat it. We just learned it here on the books,
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we just feel like you should get it right,
Yeah.
But all the other people that actually put it on the dictionaries had to go through so many mistakes to learn the actual thing that was right.
Yeah. And I think, too, this is highlighting for me as well the difference between knowledge and understanding. Mm-hmm. We love knowledge, but a lot of times we lack understanding. And in understanding is where we find a lot of humility in that sense. Because I'm seeking to understand. I'm seeking to not just know, to have a fact or to have an opinion, but I'm seeking to understand you, to understand where you're coming from, to understand the process, to understand that there's so much more than what meets the eye,
So many things we don't see.
So many things that we don't see. So.
And like we were saying, like, we charge so many people. We have talked about this before as well. We charge so many people for like what they look like on the moment, but we only see a certain point. We only see them a certain time of the day. We don't see them all the time.
That's true.
And because of that, we just judge them for the time we see them, but we haven't seen the whole picture. And that's why it takes humility to work with community, to work with people.
Yeah.
Because, we don't know it all. And we need Jesus.
Amen.
I was thinking the past days, I was like talking or thinking to myself, like, there's so many things I'm struggling with. I see so many people being affected by it. And like, I don't feel in control of it at all. I'm like, I see you're calling me out with this, I want to change this thing, but I don't feel like I have control over it. Like I want to control something. And as soon as I want to control this thing, like.
And what is this thing for like?
Yeah, like, I don't know. You could say pride. Let's just talk about pride, right? I'm so prideful and I move with this way. Like I talk with so much arrogance, like I know it all.
He said it, guys, not me.
Yeah. And I don't know how to do it. And I came to back to this realization, which we know it, but when we are at that point or at that place, it's very hard to remember, the right things in the right moment, but God has grace, and but it was like how important it is to know that you need God, because we might know what we're struggling with, but if we don't know we need God, then we won't change. The change starts when we know we need Him.
When in humility,
we
ask for His help.
That's why it's so important to ask that prayer and say, God, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
But I know I need you. I need you here. I need you in my life, because people are being affected by me, by what I'm doing. I want to do what is right.
It also gets in the way of our relationship with Him, But that's also another amazing thing is like we can ask God, Like sometimes that still blows my mind. Like, okay, if I'm struggling a lot with pride, I can ask God for humility.
Yeah.
Like
yes,
He's there ready to give it, or to help walk me through it, or to point it out, in a loving way, So that's just something that continues to blow my mind. So to reiterate that, if you're struggling, just, be humble and just ask for help.
I think another thing would be nice to talk or to touch into is like, how we were saying, like, people having this picture of when you're humble, you're like kind of weak and on all that. But when you're humble and you walk in humility, this wisdom comes with it.
Yeah. The Bible talks so much about humility, actually. And like, Yeah, there's wisdom there. Like he will strengthen the humble, you know.
Yeah.
He will exalt the humble.
He will
like,
give favor, not
favor.
fever, not fever,
No fevers,
favor.
please. Thank you, Jesus.
Well, I'm shivering because I'm kind of cold.
That's
But
okay.
sorry about
It's a
that.
little drafty in here, but you know, we'll be fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, like all these amazing qualities, and like sometimes I feel like we just overlook that, you know, or like I don't realize
Yeah.
how much the Bible actually talks about humility, you know, and of course it's a decision for us to be humble, you know, but like with that decision and that kind of sacrifice of choosing humility, because pride and all that is easier in the sense because it's just riding the flow of the world, you know.
Yeah.
But when you make that decision, like that sacrifice, like there's, yeah, like all these amazing things that God promises to the humble.
The thing is, this is kind of like, you know, those lights that have the panels on the front to direct the light.
Yes, like the ones in our studio,
Yes.
behind the cameras.
A pride is how I see it. Is pride is like those lights. You know, we are the light, let's say, and the pride when you are prideful, the light, those panels closed up in front of you, and you only think of this thing. You know,
Yeah.
But when you're humble, when you walk in humility, you're open.
It opens you up.
Yeah, you're available to
Yeah.
whatever God is asking.
Yeah.
To see the people in
You
front
reach
of you.
more?
You reach more, and you hear more.
Oh,
Yeah.
slow clap that out.
Yeah.
Yes, a person that walks in humility is a person that hears God,
And
others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, like this is kind of like it would sound like mystical or whatever. You know how we see so many people's like movies where like the goodness is in everything. You know, like all this stuff. But no, God is in everything,
Yeah.
and He is in all of us as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are open and to hear, to listen, I'm not talking about any kind of listen. I'm talking about to listen to God,
Yeah.
to hear His voice.
Yeah.
We will hear the ones are His sheep. Says in the Bible.
Know His voice. Yeah.
Know His voice, and then they will hear it not just on the Bible or whatever. They will hear it in others as well.
Yeah. And it's true. When we're walking in pride, it's like turn the volume right down.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like that sheep that just wants to eat whatever,
Yeah.
like it goes their own way. You know.
Yeah.
It's like I know better.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just sitting over getting convicted. It's fine. No big deal.
No, but this is why we want to talk about this,
Yeah.
because we see in ourselves, we see in others, and we see how much it's hurting the people, how much it's hurting not just the community outside, but the church ourselves as well.
And I think it's one of those things like pride and humility. So I think if you were to ask anyone, Christian or not Christian, which is better, pride or humility, everyone's gonna say humility. Like, oh,
Yeah.
like don't be proud, you know. But it's one thing I feel like is so ingrained in us, in human nature, in society, in culture, that yeah, like you're right. We really have to sit down and just confront it, or sit down even with yourself, like every so often. Be like, whoa, like okay, am I moving in pride, like, or am I moving in humility? You know, like kind of take inventory.
We all struggle with it,
Yeah.
no matter what. Like, if you don't know what to pray for, just ask God to
For
humble you.
humility.
Yeah, because we all struggle with pride. The
Yeah.
the extrovert and the introvert, they just act different. Extrovert
Yes.
is all out. Yeah, I'm the
Yes.
star, whatever.
You see my pride very easily.
Yeah,
it's
and
true.
then the ones that are introvert, it's because they don't want to hurt their pride, so they don't say what they're thinking or all they're going through. You know, they don't want to share because it puts them in a vulnerable place. So we all struggle with
We
it.
all struggle, and it's back to vulnerability as well.
Mm.
I think again something that we've talked about frequently on our show, but like vulnerability, like is tough. But honestly, that's where real life happens.
Mm.
You know, can't be
Yeah.
humble without vulnerability. You know, you can't. Yeah.
It's I feel like it's also a step of faith. Because when we are prideful, we just don't see that God is gonna do something about it. You know, we don't trust that God is gonna cover us or that He has our back. And when we walk in humility and we trust in God that He has us, we definitely on His palm. You know, and it takes some courage. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good thing to mention as well, because something that God's been kind of reminding me is like he's the one that justifies us, like he is the judge, right? He justifies, because I feel like a lot of times, and for me personally, I feel like I need to justify. I need to, take my case to court, and show people why I was right or I didn't mean it or whatever it is. But when you are walking in humility, it's exactly what you said. It's understanding that God's got you. He's got you in the palm of like his hand. So, and it goes back, I think, to the whole, okay, like people that are, walking in humility are like being walked over, but it's not true, because like God's got you and he's the one that's justifying you. You can be humble. You can, you don't have to prove your point. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to prove anything. Like God doesn't ask us to prove anything.
No.
He asks us to rest and abide in him. And he's our judge. He's our defender. All of this,
Yeah, we often feel like we have to defend God.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
He does not need our defending, man.
No, it took me a while to think or to come up with this realization, but there was one time, I can't remember if it was a teaching or a church service or something, but I remember the pastor saying that, and I was like, wow, it's so true. How many times we feel like we need to defend God. God is almighty. God is God. He doesn't need you to like.
Yeah.
We're here to serve, no matter what. Is we're serving something. If it is God,
awesome.
We have talked about this before.
Yeah.
And that kind of hits our pride. But it's the truth. If we're not serving God, we're serving something else, which is not good. But that doesn't mean we have to defend God or whatever.
Yeah.
But
also, most of the times when we're defending God, we're actually just defending ourselves.
Yeah.
It looks holier because like, no, but God is this, God is that. But really, we're defending our own pride.
We're insecure.
Yes, he's not insecure. We're so insecure, but he's not.
That's the thing, is because maybe like somebody asks something about our religion. Maybe it can be a Muslim or somebody. Sometimes they ask difficult questions we don't know.
We get challenged,
and then we feel like we have to defend ourselves. No, you don't have to. And it's not about because the law says that I can believe whatever I want to. No, it's because you don't. God is God, and God has shown himself to us in different ways, and you can talk about that.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean you have to
become defensive.
No.
Have a conversation.
Yeah. It's like, I've seen God in this. He healed my grandmother, and I feel like, I don't know. You can talk about that, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But we don't have to defend.
Don't have to defend. No.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's almost time for us to start closing down.
Yeah.
Which means it's time for our closing statements. So, Lucas, if you could summarize, I don't know, your key thoughts for this, your main takeaways. What would it be?
My main takeaways.
We talked about a lot. So.
Yeah, we did. I would say yes, humility allows us to grow. It puts us in a place of learning. We are open, available to God and what He wants to do, but as well to be a servant. To be available to serve. And it takes humility for us to grow, to know that we need God, and that's where everything is going to change. If we want true change, we need to know we need Him. And once we know that, our relationship with everyone else and the way we move is going to change.
Yeah,
I could say that's quite a strong main one.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away everything.
I was like, can I say what you said or no? But yeah, I think for me, one of the big things is admitting that you have need.
Yeah.
That you are in need, that we are in need of God.
We're in lack.
Yes, exactly. We have a lack, and that's not bad. The world tells you that's bad. That means you're missing something. But as Christians, we should be like, wow, like I have a lack and God like gets to fill it. You know, I could try to fill it myself, but it would be very, I don't know, lackluster or not really that great, you know?
Vague.
Vague, yeah, or just half full, you know? But like when we open up ourselves in humility and say, hey, God, like I need you. I need more of you. I need to see you in this or that or this. Like that's when he fills us, and that's when we get to move in his power, you know? God doesn't have like space if I'm walking around in my pride trying to prove myself, trying to prove my opinions, you know?
Yeah.
And again, like, yeah, my opinion is not fact. I think this is something that like I need to remind myself all the time, you know, especially in again the social media age. Like my opinion is not fact. It can change, you know? Maybe it should be challenged, you know? And if I'm wrong, that doesn't mean I'm a bad person, you know? If, you know, someone doesn't agree with me, like that's fine. You know, if I realize that I'm wrong, like I can say that, you know? Like build vulnerability through humility in our relationships.
And if you were wrong, you learn something new.
Exactly. Like get
And now
rid
you
of the
know.
shame of being wrong, you know?
Yeah.
Like there is forgiveness, and there's, like God says in his word, like his mercies are new every morning. So clearly he's like, hey, every morning you're going to need my new mercy, you know? So we shouldn't be surprised, you know, that we need new mercies every day. So, yeah. Yeah. If that
With
makes sense.
humility comes favor.
Amen. And wisdom. And so much more. But this is where I think we'll end it for today. Yeah. So thank you guys again for joining us for today's episode of The Anchor of the Week.
Yeah, so make sure you follow us on our social media platforms and the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the YouTube channel so that you don't miss a thing.
Yes. And we will see you next time.